This shit for brains and clapped excuse of a human being is our MC, Seonghyeon Han. He is a walking L factory with fewer functioning brain cells than a TikTok comment section. He is so downright bad that he could win gold in the Failure Olympics. And if living off of 2 brain cells wasn't enough, man's got a pair of busted legs and a phobia of fresh air, which means his social skills are about as functional as a Nokia in a swimming pool. But before we dive into his tragic lore, do me a favor. Smash that like button, sub to the channel, and let's hit today's goal of 100 likes. Hit it and we'll keep dropping banger recaps at light speed. Otherwise, I swear I'm sending a clone to haunt your algorithm. Now let's jump back into our protagonist's pitiful existence. Lying in his bed, Han Seonghyeon was doing what he did best, absolutely nothing. Just then the doorbell rang. Something as basic as this was a rare event in his life, almost as rare as a protagonist with good parents in a shounen anime. Dragging himself to the door, he found a government official standing outside, probably wishing he was anywhere but here. The guy had come to check if Hyun had awakened his powers, but one look at Hyun's dead fish expression told him everything he needed to know. With a rehearsed sigh, the official gave his usual speech, report to the association if anything changes, and dipped, leaving Hyun to marinate in his loneliness. As the door shut, Hyun realized it had been nearly 6 months since he had spoken to another human being. But hey, silver lining, now he didn't have to open his door for another 6 months. Fully prepared for a self-pity marathon, he shuffled back to his bed, ready to drown his sorrows in food. Except, in true loser fashion, everything in his fridge had already expired. Life just kept throwing him LS, and he was catching them all like a Pokemon trainer with 0 luck. Just as he was about to curl up and embrace his pathetic existence, the TV flashed with breaking news. A fire had erupted at a nearby shopping mall. But this wasn't some accident. An awakened had set the place ablaze before being whisked away to another dimension. This was the reality of the world now. Random people would awaken with mysterious powers, and within 24 hours they'd be forcefully transported to another world. Some would stay there for years, even decades, and only a handful ever managed to return. Naturally, some of these soon-to-be Ice Guy protagonists took a fuck-it approach, committing crimes out of desperation before their inevitable teleportation. And Hyun? He had been on the receiving end of one such incident 2 years ago. He lost everything. His family, his legs, and most importantly, his will to face the world. He had tried to crawl out of the pit of despair. Again and again, he forced himself to stand, to move forward, to reclaim even a fraction of his former life. But life wasn't an underdog sports movie. There was no triumphant comeback, no rousing training montage with a catchy soundtrack. Just failure over and over. No matter how much effort he put in, the world kept smacking him down like an anime protagonist in episode 1. At this point, Hyun had failed so many times that failure became his daily routine. Wake up, breathe, fail, repeat. Every time he even thought about stepping outside, panic attacks would hit him like a truck-kun auditioning for another Ice Guy series. He wondered if life would get better if he could just find the courage to go outside again. But before he could spiral deeper into self-pity, a loud noise exploded inside his head. It was a system panel popping up out of nowhere. Congratulations! You've been chosen by the Akasha system. And just like that, he had awakened. The system even threw in a free unique skill as a bonus. But instead of feeling excited, Hyun panicked. He never expected to awaken, much less in such a bizarre way. His skill was called Avatar. And with his awakening, his countdown began 24 hours until he'd be dragged, kicking and screaming, into another world. At first, he was sure this was some kind of sick joke, but the system made it painfully clear that it wasn't. The moment he tried to brush it off, another message popped up, reminding him that he'd be forcibly transported if he didn't step into the teleportation field within the time limit. Hyun scrambled to grab his emergency kit, the same one he packed, just in case, but never actually thought he'd use. As he rushed to prepare, all the nightmare fuel he'd read online came flooding back. How most people take at least a year to return, how time flows 10 times slower in the other dimension. Meaning if he gets stuck there, he's looking at a minimum of 10 years of survival. 10 years? The guy couldn't even survive 10 minutes outside his apartment. He sat there, questioning his entire existence, and before he knew it, only 3 minutes remained. His feet felt frozen. His brain screamed for an escape, but there wasn't one. As the countdown ticked, Full-blown panic set in. If he couldn't even handle going to the grocery store, how the hell was he supposed to survive in a godforsaken fantasy world for 2 decades? That's when it hit him. He had powers now. He had awakened a unique skill. Desperate, he screamed, "Activate avatar," and suddenly a perfect copy of himself appeared in front of him. It was nearly identical down to the last piece of gear. As Hyun stared, he felt something weird, like he was seeing double, but not in the "I drank too much" way. He focused and realized he was sharing his vision and senses with his clone. Excited, he spun around, confirming that he could see through both pairs of eyes. Holy shit, this is OP. But, of course, reality hit like a brick. His peanut-sized brain couldn't handle processing 2 perspectives at once. His head spun, overwhelmed by the sheer amount of sensory input, and before he could fully grasp his new ability, he glanced at the timer. 1 minute left. Panic mode activated. He cursed his so-called unique skill, calling it as useless as just as he was about to resign himself to his fate. A light bulb moment hit him. What if he sent his clone instead? It wasn't like he had anything to lose. With nothing but blind hope, he ordered his avatar to step into the portal while he sat on his bed, praying to every deity that this would work. And it did. For the first time in his entire pathetic life, something actually went his way. The system recognized his avatar as him, and just like that, Hyun successfully scammed the universe. As the countdown hit 0, his clone was sucked into the teleportation field, leaving Hyun behind. He had officially outplayed the Ice Guy system, proving that sometimes the best survival skill is bullshitting your way out of trouble. Hyun sat there, stunned, as his vision flickered between 2 worlds. Through his avatar, he could see everything in the other world. It was so vivid, so real, that for a second he panicked, thinking, is he just getting scammed? Asking himself if he was sent to the other world instead. His heart nearly stopped before the system chimed in, reassuring him that he was still on Earth, and that he could return at any time using the karma shop if he had the required points. Which, of course, he didn't. His current karma balance? A fat, embarrassing 0. Just as he was processing that depressing reality, the nausea kicked in. His vision doubled, his brain short-circuited, and it felt like he was running Cyberpunk 2077 on a laggy, buggy, and absolutely shit-show Windows Vista. Unable to take it anymore, Hyun dismissed the avatar and sprinted straight to the bathroom before he hurled his soul out. This dizziness? This was nothing compared to actually being transported to another world, and even Hyun knew that. Now feeling a little better, he decided to test his powers again. Summoning his avatar once more, he immediately started roasting his own ability. What kind of useless-ass power is this? I can't even fight with it. This isn't any cheat skill, this is straight-up NPC behavior. As if the system had been waiting for him to whine, another notification popped up. Achievement unlocked, first human to return to Earth without the karma shop. Before he could even process what was happening, the system granted him a special reward, a dimensional teleportation field that would allow him to travel to any previously visited location. Hyun blinked. In the span of a few minutes, he went from thinking his ability was dog's hit to getting a literal fast travel system like he was in an open-world RPG. And if that wasn't enough, the system dumped a ton of karma points on him as a bonus. Just like that, Hyun had gone from a pathetic shut-in to a dimensional hacker. Han's jaw unhinged as the system window flashed his new balance of 1,910,213 karma. He had earned more points for yeeting one measly avatar into the great beyond than he had in 10 years of pathetic grinding. The system helpfully explained that karma was the universe's shadiest currency, dished out based on a person's cosmic footprint. It didn't give a single fuck if you were a saint saving orphans or a genocidal maniac leveling cities. For a solid second, the man wondered if there was a catch, a cosmic fine print he'd missed. Then he immediately decided he didn't care. Who was he to question a god-tier payout? Spotting an option to improve his unique skill for a hefty 300,000 karma, he was tempted, but another button caught his eye. Status upgrade. He was about to change his life for the low price of 10,000 points. Curiosity getting the better of him, Han tapped the regeneration option. Instantly, a bizarre energy surged through his legs. Not a painful shock, but a deep, cellular-level tingling. He looked down, and the mangled, useless limbs that had defined his miserable existence were just fixed. The scars were gone. The constant, grinding pain vanished. The injury that had stolen his future and locked him away from the world was deleted from his personal history like a bad search query. He didn't just get regular healing. The system confirmed he'd blown past the standard level and unlocked the Wolverine on a budget upgrade, super regeneration. Later, as he effortlessly crushed a workout on the simulator, he marveled at the raw power in his restored legs. With nearly 2 million karma still burning a hole in his metaphysical pocket, it was time to get truly stupid with his power. Han slammed the button to enhance his unique skill, the avatar itself. Moments later, he stood before his upgraded clone. Grinning, he looked at the clone and said, "You're a real man now," while admiring the handiwork. The clone, checking out its own newly acquired six-pack, shot back, "You've put in some serious effort, haven't you?" The upgrade was more than just aesthetic. Han's consciousness was now fully detached from the avatar. He'd installed a mental firewall. If the clone got its arm ripped off, Han wouldn't feel a thing. The motherfucker had just unlocked God mode for interdimensional travel, turning life or death combat into a lazy Sunday afternoon gaming session from the comfort of his couch. But the system wasn't done blowing his mind. As he processed this glorious new reality, he realized it wasn't just one upgraded clone. He now had three goddamn avatars, ready to be deployed. With 3 avatars standing around, Han realized this was about to get administratively awkward. Muttering, "I can't just keep calling them avatars." He scanned the room for inspiration. In a profound stroke of genius, his gaze landed on a ketchup packet. He pointed to the first clone. "You," he decreed, "will be called Hans." The system updated, showing Hans came preloaded with mana attraction. He turned to the second. "You're Heinz." Heinz got survivability. Hans stared at the combo, a warlock who was also a goddamn cockroach. With his new team assembled, he put them to work. Hans was unceremoniously teleported to another dimension to face unknown horrors, while Heinz was handed a bag of garbage and sent to the curb. Hans' priorities were clearly in order. Switching his view to Hans, the world went dark. It was nighttime in a forest so quiet, you just knew something was about to jump out and try to eat your face. And right on cue, a massive black panther materialized from the shadows. The beast lunged, but Han, chilling on his couch miles away, reacted with the cold, detached precision of a pro gamer. Hans unsheathed his sword and rammed it straight down the panther's throat. There was no fear, no adrenaline, no pain, just the satisfying feedback of a successful quick-time event. After finishing the creature, Hans sat by the corpse and had the audacity to complain. He muttered, "Is it this hard because I haven't leveled up yet?" Already bored. Scanning the horizon, he spotted a small settlement, the next objective marker in his personal RPG. Strolling into the village, Hans was greeted by a ridiculously friendly elder named Glol, who praised his courage for walking through a monster-infested forest. Hans, covered in panther guts, spun some bullshit story about getting a little lost, which the blissfully naive NPC swallowed whole. Glol, delighted to see a new face, immediately offered him a room for the night and a drink at the tavern. Later, tucked into a cozy bed, Hans felt a warmth he hadn't experienced in years. The villagers were kind, the conversation was easy, and for the first time in forever, he felt genuinely happy. It was a truly good day, full of hope and human connection. Meanwhile, the real Han was parked on his ass, stuffing his face with chicken and chugging booze. "This is great," he slurred to himself, basking in the post-shower bliss. He felt a brief, almost imperceptible pang of guilt for the hard-working Hans, then immediately decided it was good training. He's practicing his survivability, Han concluded with a self-satisfied smile, feeling like a brilliant commander. This motherfucker was living the dream, getting all the rewards while his clone did the dying. He was fantasizing about his future as a great interdimensional leader when a system window appeared with all the subtlety of a tactical nuke. Avatar is dead. All skills and data will be reset. The dumbass froze, his chicken falling from his hand. Hans was dead. He jabbed a trembling, unfamiliar finger at the system window floating in his vision as his mind screamed. He died in that godforsaken village, wondering if that shady old man poisoned his drink. Frustration boiled over as he thought, how could he have been such a dumbass? A chilling thought cut through the chaos. Was he reconnecting to his avatar at the exact moment he died? Back in the village, two figures stood over his previous body, looking at the corpse. Glokal said, I thought he'd be useful. He got through the forest alone, so I figured he had potential. In the end, he's just another empty-headed elite skeleton. As Han's consciousness settled into its new, decaying home, a system window popped up with the worst possible patch notes, informing Han that his race had been changed to undead. And as a result of that, he had acquired a new skill, decomposed heart. His new stat sheet was a horror show. An undead with a skill that literally prevents mental damage, which was probably for the best because a single glance to his side revealed a glass wall filled with enough skeletons to staff a Halloween-themed IKEA. Han looked at the skeleton and thought these lunatics turned the entire village into their personal bone collection. Just as the full weight of his shitty new reality was crushing him, a living, breathing man stomped into the basement. It was the same asshole from the tavern. The guy radiated, I hate my job energy, grumbling, how much longer do I have to stay in this dump? His gaze landed on Han's new body, and he pointed with the authority of a disgruntled manager. Why is this knucklehead still here? Do I have to do everyone's fucking job for them? Move the skeleton's body over there. A jolt of pure terror shot through Han. If he still had a heart, it would have exploded. A strange force began to tug at his limbs, trying to puppet him across the room. He fought it. A silent, desperate struggle against invisible strings, but quickly decided that playing dead was the smarter move. As the henchman muttered about his pain in the neck, boss, Han recognized the feeling. It was the same force that moved his last corpse, and a spark of an idea ignited in his mind. This had to be his new mana attraction skill. If he could understand this power, he wouldn't just be some puppet. He could be the one pulling the strings. A week later, Han's undead body sat perched on a stack of boxes. His skeletal fingers twitched, and across the room, a lone skeleton crumpled on the floor, shuddered, and rose to its feet. He'd done it. He could now control another undead. The victory felt a little hollow, though. He imagined commanding a legion of the damned, a skeletal army to crush his enemies, but it turned out he could only control one other bonehead at a time. Suddenly, a sharp hiss broke his concentration. He whipped around and snatched a rat mid-scamper, the little pest that had been gnawing at his heels all week. Holding the squirming creature, a beautifully devious idea formed. Why waste his energy on a slow, clunky skeleton when he could take control of something small, fast, and sneaky? He focused his mana, and the rat's eyes flared with an eerie red glow. Han set it down, a grin stretching across his skeletal face. Operation Night Watch was a go. This furry little motherfucker was about to become the world's most disgusting spy drone. Through the rat's eyes, he saw the whiny henchman pacing outside another warehouse, bitching and moaning to the empty night before pulling open a heavy door, revealing the secrets within. The little rat, now a furry instrument of espionage, scurried toward the open passage. Suddenly, a wall of pure energy slammed through the air, stopping the rodent dead in its tracks. The feedback hit Han like a magical bitch slap, and he recoiled. Even with his mind shielded from emotional damage, that surge was overwhelming. From inside the warehouse, he could hear voices. A man named Jeffrey was whining, asking his companion, when will the maturation process be done? That fragment of the immortal king feels like it's sucking out my soul every time I go near it. Another man replied cautiously, it should be soon. But isn't it funny? We're guarding this place so tightly, with traps all over the village and even here. Not even a mouse could sneak through. Han's mind raced. So, a piece of some all-powerful dude was the grand prize. But little did the security genius know, a mouse had, in fact, just tried to sneak through before getting absolutely vaporized. Before Han could process this, a flash of magic turned his little spy into a puff of smoke. The old man, the village elder, appeared as if from nowhere, brushing off his robes. From his hiding spot, Han seethed. This old motherfucker was sharper than he looked, noticing a spy that small. Did they really figure me out? Han wondered, a wave of panic washing over him. The elder stepped closer, inspecting the spot where the rat ceased to exist. An undead, he muttered, a flicker of confusion on his face. I don't sense black magic, but its body was brimming with dark mana. He pieced it together with terrifying speed. There's only one place filled with such potent dark mana. He turned to the other man and said, Jeffrey, you're in charge of the warehouse today, aren't you? Observing from afar, Han felt a pang of guilt grieving the death of the rat and giving his fallen comrade a ridiculously solemn mental send-off. You served well. I'll avenge you, I swear. Watch over me from Rat Valhalla. Sometime later, Jeffrey stormed into the basement. His face twisted in a full-blown toddler tantrum as he said, A rat. All this fuss over a damn rodent. That stupid old man. As his eyes landed on Han's undead form, he commanded Han. But when Han's body remained perfectly still, Jeffrey's temper boiled over. He stomped over, grabbing Han by the hair and yanking him forward. Aren't you the fool who dared to stand against me? Didn't you threaten to kill me if I touched your family? Go on. Say it again. Jeffrey sneered, his face a mask of sadistic glee. Oh, that's right, he chuckled, enjoying his own villain monologue a little too much. I ripped out your tongue. He tossed the poor dude to the floor and continued with his villain monologue. You should be thankful I let you live after we hunted down every idiot in your pathetic village. Your wife, she's here too, you know. In a stunning display of talk shit, get bit, Han's undead body suddenly exploded into action. He lunged forward, sinking his teeth deep into Jeffrey's neck. The man let out a choked, horrified scream as he collapsed, sputtering. What's happening to me? Stop! He desperately tried to cast a spell, his hands trembling, but it was too late. Another figure, the reanimated corpse of the wife, pounced on him from behind. Working together, the two undead efficiently and permanently shut Jeffrey the fuck up. Han, piloting his old body, felt a grim satisfaction. This was more than just revenge. This was the beginning of a hostile takeover. Meanwhile, Han switched over to his alternate avatar. Heinz sauntered up to the village guards with a look of feigned desperation and asked them for his brother's whereabouts, laying the foundation for an act of pure, unadulterated bullshit. The guards, whose combined IQ probably couldn't power a light bulb, looked skeptical. After they mentioned his brother had already left, Heinz doubled down, demanding to see the village elder, confident the old man would fall for his scam. Moments later, the elder, Glol, arrived. Heinz bowed with the grace of a mastercon artist and said, Elder, my twin brother, Hans, is here somewhere. Meanwhile, inside, the real Han was cackling, realizing that having two bodies is basically a license to be a conniving motherfucker and get away with it. While Heinz was selling this grade A bullshit to the elder, Han's main body slipped into the village warehouse. He approached the fragment of the immortal king as he did. Han realized the fragment wasn't just leaking energy. It was actively feeding on the undead to replenish itself, turning the local population into juiced-up freaks. Without another thought, he activated his skills and began siphoning the fragment's power, causing a massive energy quake that shook the entire village. Back at the gate, Glol's face went from suspicious to pure, slack-jawed panic. The gullible dumbass finally realized something was wrong, screaming, "Kill this fool!" before transforming into a monstrous beast and rocketing toward the warehouse. The protagonist, meanwhile, was getting absolutely blasted by a tsunami of pure, unfiltered hate flowing from the fragment. Even with his mental defenses working overtime, the sheer volume of negative emotion was staggering. Just as he wondered if any sane person could withstand this, a deafening explosion of power ripped through the air, and a system window popped up informing him that he had met the conditions for rank increased and a result. He acquired a new skill of demonic wisdom. Han had just hit the jackpot. He didn't just learn dark magic. He basically downloaded the entire dark magic wiki directly into his brain. The skill was a cheat code, allowing him to master any dark magic just by looking at it. Elsewhere, in a dark basement, Some poor schmuck was stuck on cleanup duty. Before he could even get started, the elders enraged. Panic-stricken voice echoed from above, his orders laced with sheer desperation. Check the fragment immediately and find Jeffrey. The man just sighed, and then approached the cage holding the fragment. As he got near the cage, he wondered, why is it so quiet? And just then a tidal wave of undead burst from the shadows and swarmed him. Panicked, the man screamed, "This is impossible!" Just before Heinz's voice, dripping with the calm, deadpan sarcasm of a bored god, cut through the noise. "Lovely weather today, isn't it?" The man's eyes bulged. A talking skeleton was bad enough, but a talking skeleton doing small talk while he was being eaten alive was a whole new level of fucked. He managed a pathetic puff of magic to push them back, but in his panic, he shattered the very cage meant to contain them, unleashing a flood of monsters. Heinz's voice echoed again. Ignoring someone's greeting? How rude. From his shared perspective, Han was marveling at his new cheat code, demonic wisdom. Dark magic wasn't just a skill anymore. It was an instinct, a core part of his being he never knew he was missing. With a silent command, he unleashed his new undead minions on the village. As the village descended into beautiful, bloody chaos, the elder, Glol, finally made his grand entrance, looking absolutely livid. "You should have been an elite skeleton," he growled. "What did you do with the fragment?" Heinz just grinned. "Gol, it's been too long. By the way, thanks for the new heart. I found it in your warehouse. You really should label your shit better." Glol's face contorted in a mask of fury as he screamed. "You dare to merge a fragment of the immortal king with such a pitiful body," launching into a full-on tantrum. He raised a hand and unleashed a finger of death, a blast of dark energy that ripped Heinz's arm clean off. Heinz glanced at the stump, then back at Glol and said, "Attacking someone mid-conversation? Really? Where are your manners, you fucking psycho?" Glol ignored him, launching into a meltdown of epic proportions. "Silence. Do you have any idea how much effort I poured into that fragment? An entire year. A year of preparation. And you ruined everything. I was so close to wielding a power greater than anything in existence, and you turned my masterpiece into this." Heinz, now enveloped in a swirling vortex of dark magic, just smirked. "What's wrong, old man? Can't handle a little competition?" Enraged, Glol screamed, "Dark Thorn!" and sent shadowy tendrils spiraling toward him. Heinz laughed, a dry, rattling sound that promised nothing but pain. "Using high-ranking magic on a beginner? You must be really desperate." Still reeling from his bruised ego, Glol sneered like a dramatic little bitch. "You may have survived, but I'll dismantle that body and use it for experiments." He then announced his next move, destructive ectoplasm. Heinz just sighed. "Stop monologuing your attack names like you're in a third-rate anime and just die already." "Alfred." The elder froze, his face twisting from rage to confusion. "Alfred? How do you know that name?" he stammered. Before he could process it, another blast of magic shot at him from behind, a little love tap from Han just to fuck with him. Glol deflected it, his eyes narrowing. "You're adapting too quickly," he seethed. "But I have no time to waste on you." Throwing his last remaining dignity to the wind, Glol activated his ultimate edgelord power-up, Pact of Destruction. The entire area dimmed as he began slurping up the souls of his own dead allies. Because nothing says, "I'm a great leader," like using your fallen comrades as a power smoothie. A dark crown of pure cringe materialized on his head, amplifying his power. Heinz watched this whole dramatic display and said, "Sacrificing your own men for this? How fittingly vile of you." Glol, now cosplaying as the Lich King, roared, "With the full power of this fragment, I would have crushed you." Just before the apocalyptic firestorm could even singe Heinz's bony eyebrows, a single, almost lazy streak of magic pierced Glol's chest. The elder stumbled, his expression a perfect portrait of shock and utter disbelief. The roaring flames dissipated into nothing. Heinz stood there, looking unimpressed. "Took you long enough," he said with a smirk. Honestly, I almost fell asleep while you were chanting all those fancy spell names. By the way, thanks for the masterclass. I think I've finally got the hang of this whole dark magic thing. Blood gurgled from Glol's lips as he collapsed. He muttered to himself, how could I die like this? So senselessly. Heinz watched him fall, then raised his gaze to the sky. Where he saw the reflection of the rat, he looked at it and said, your revenge is complete, my dear friend. Now rest in Rat Valhalla. Meanwhile, in what felt like a completely different genre, a woman named Rista was playing the part of a saint, kneeling in prayer before a massive statue in a grand cathedral. Her holy meditation was interrupted by a knock. It was a man named Martin, looking like he'd just seen a ghost. Are you finished praying? He asked, his voice trembling. Yes, she replied calmly, her face a mask of piety. Martin didn't waste any time. The ghost of the immortal king's resurrection has been detected in the west. Rista's composure cracked for just a fraction of a second, her eyes widening. The goddamn immortal king. The continent's OG big bad. As Martin rushed off to summon the council, Rista turned back to the statue, her serene expression hardening into one of cold, deadly resolve. The motherfucker who brought terror to the world hundreds of years ago was back on the board, and she was not about to let that happen again. On the battlefield, Heinz surveyed the wreckage. Remnants of the battle littered the ground, a landscape of pure devastation that made a grin creep across his face. As he muttered, losses can always be replenished. This incident wasn't a tragedy. It was a fucking resource boom. The best thing about necromancy, he figured, was its glorious, unending potential for recycling. But before he could start his eco-friendly corpse repurposing project, he glanced at his own missing limb with irritation. First things first, this one-armed bandit look wasn't going to cut it. He spotted a lone skeleton, its bones still fresh, and without a second thought, ripped its arm off and went, this'll do. He slapped the bony appendage onto his shoulder, activated his super regeneration cheat code, and gave the new limb a test clench. With his body mostly whole again, Heinz was ready to build his army. He extended his hands toward a nearby skeleton, channeling his power and channeling the voice of the ancient, immortal fucker fused to his soul. The voice whispered sweet, evil nothings in his ear, guiding him to cleanse the magic and return it to his body. With a commanding tone, he ordered the skeleton, you must become my subordinate. For a glorious second, it looked like it was working, right up until the skeleton just fucking collapsed into a pile of bone dust. Heinz just stood there, arms folded, staring at the bony mess. All that power, all that dark energy, and this motherfucker couldn't even assemble an IKEA skeleton. After a moment of dumbass silence, realization finally hit him. Heinz turned his gaze to a far more promising candidate. The village chief's body, still lying amongst the dead. A dark, brilliant idea formed. Maybe a basic bitch skeleton was too simple. Should I turn you into an undead with a soul to extract information from you? He mused, grabbing the lifeless form of Mokum for a closer look. But as he inspected the corpse, his plan hit another snag. What? He exclaimed, his voice filled with genuine surprise. The old man's soul had already been yeeted into the great beyond, leaving nothing but a magical circle burned into his chest. After a moment, Heinz pieced it together. This was the enemy's control method. He dropped the soulless sack of meat. If the soul was gone, he'd just have to make do with the leftovers. Heinz poured his energy directly into his body, deciding to skip the grunt-level undead and go straight for the deluxe model. A high-level death mage, complete with consciousness and combat skills, but none of that pesky free will. A few moments later, the body twitched, and Mokum rose to his feet, a freshly minted, obedient killing machine ready for orders. The undead mage stood there, a freshly booted-up NPC awaiting its first command. Master Heinz was genuinely shocked as he looked at the dude and said, "You're speaking?" while looking more impressed than he had any right to be. He immediately snapped back into his role as a grade-A asshole, turning to the mage with a cold expression. "Your name is Mokum. From now on, you will obey me without hesitation." To punctuate his point, he slammed his hand against the undead mage's skull. Mokum flinched but immediately whimpered, I will obey. Heinz smirked, rubbing the fresh bruise on Mokum's head. Even without his memories, the old man's sins remained, and Heinz was going to enjoy being the walking, talking embodiment of his karma. He casually pointed at Mokum's cane. It looks pretty good, he remarked, and the newly born death mage trembled, realizing his new existence was pure fear and servitude. Heinz's grin widened as he thought to himself this motherfucker was going to be a very useful tool. Meanwhile, in the comfort of his hideout, the protagonist was living a completely different reality. He leaned back, patting his full belly after a good meal and smiling like he hadn't just orchestrated a small-scale apocalypse and sighed in relief. God, that was delicious, before immediately whipping out his phone to check the gold rate. The village was full of magicians, and magicians love shiny shit, so he knew he was sitting on a fortune. But his thoughts soon drifted to his mountain of corpses, specifically one young zombie. In a gesture of what he probably told himself was profound respect, he flicked his wrist and set a nearby building ablaze, giving the zombie the most metal, pyromaniac Viking funeral imaginable. He watched the flames crackle, thinking to himself, no turning back now. Back at his table, feeling confident, he muttered, summon Hans. In an instant, his avatar appeared, filling the room with an aura so intense, it felt like he'd just invited a Dark Souls boss over for tea. The suffocating pressure hit him like a truck, and his eyes widened in sheer panic. Cancel the summoning, he shrieked, recoiling and covering his face. The avatar vanished as quickly as it came, leaving him gasping for air. I thought I was going to die, he wheezed, scratching his head in frustration. Accessing the karma shop, he saw he'd earned a shitload of points from his recent rampage. He dumped a hefty 300,000 karma into upgrading his unique skill and was rewarded instantly. The system informed him he could now own more avatars and, more importantly, had unlocked Serenity. Basically a mental panic room to save him from his own overpowered, stupid decisions. Feeling smug about his wise investment, he started stuffing a bag with gold, already benefiting from the new skill that protected him from the overwhelming anxiety of being an idiot with too much power. He dumped the bags of gold onto the committee table like he was making a down payment on a small country. The workers gasped, shielding their eyes from the radiant glow, as if they'd just opened the Ark of the Covenant. The protagonist? He told the manager to deposit all the funds into my account before turning and walking out, leaving the stunned employees to handle his ridiculous fortune. As he left, he glanced at his shadow, remembering how his avatar, Hans, had conveniently hidden it with dark magic as he thought, maybe I was worried for nothing. Just as he was about to pat himself on the back for being a criminal mastermind, a massive explosion ripped through the building behind him. Amidst the destruction stood Wolf, holding a bag of gold with a shit-eating grin. Looks like we hit the jackpot, he roared with satisfaction. The two of them were now running through the streets like a couple of idiots who had just pulled off the heist of the century. Who would have thought there'd be so much gold in such a remote place? His moment of self-congratulation was cut short when the bandit beside him hissed, "Stop chatting. It's time for us to run." As they sprinted ahead, they spotted a familiar figure up ahead, our dear dumbass protagonist, putting on the performance of a lifetime as scared civilian number 3. He pointed at them with fake terror and shouted, "Villains! Someone needs to report them. These criminals are using their awakened powers for evil." The sheer hypocrisy was breathtaking. Wolf, having had enough of this community theater bullshit, clocked him right in the cheek and told him to shut the fuck up. Han touched his bruised cheek, thinking to himself that the guards would probably track them down. They had plenty of time, with the guards still 3 minutes out, and all they had to do was reach the portal. But as they neared their destination, they found their grand escape plan had a very human-shaped speed bump. A girl, lying unconscious on the ground right in front of their exit. Wolf skidded to a halt. "Portal? What happened to her?" he shouted, his voice laced with the pure frustration of a perfectly timed mission going to shit. Standing before them was a figure, masked and glowing with enough ominous energy to make a final boss blush. Wolf muttered, trying to process the scene. "Who's that?" "The guards." The bandit shook his head, whispering with absolute certainty, "That idiot isn't one of them." As Hans moved closer, he reached up to remove his mask. Han, the pathetic bandit, couldn't do a damn thing. But Hans, his own overpowered, ass-kicking avatar, was another story entirely.